In today's episode, relatives lose everything because they were too stupid to keep their mouths shut. Post office said I couldn't file a complaint about the mailman not trying to deliver my packages because I had no proof, so I got proof. So let's get started. Relatives lose everything because they were too stupid to keep their mouths shut. A bit of a context here. I work as a lawyer for an excellent and famous law firm here in northern Italy. My family went through some low times. In the last 9 years, we had to face a brutal divorce with my dad having depleted every single cent he could. One of my aunts was brutally murdered because of a €150 cautionary deposit. My granddad was diagnosed with cancer. And some other funny stuff in the middle. Because of that, our bonds became stronger and stronger. Must say that with my family, I mean my mother, her parents, and my 2 aunts this year, COVID-19 managed to take away both my aunts. I love them to the moon and back, but one of them was married to a complete douchebag. He always considered himself to be better and smarter than anyone else, and so were his relatives. My aunt and her husband, I straight up refused to call him uncle, lived in a huge house, and so did his brother with her wife and son. He died around 7/8 years ago and left almost everything he could just to his brother and his family, completely ignoring my family because OP's granddad is already rich. Why should I leave anything to his daughter and grandson? Basically, this year, my aunt was won by COVID. I was grieving, since I really loved her and cared about her, and I already lost another aunt prior. When the notary called us to read the will, both me and my mother came out completely astonished. She left us just a few things, even though she always said she would have left us basically everything. I don't need the money involved that much, as I already inherited from my other aunt, and my job pays me really well, but my mom always had to struggle, financially speaking. It would have been a huge help, since she doesn't want anything from me. I tried to give her some money in the past, but she always sent them back, being stubborn as she can be. As we walked out, I pulled my cousin by my side to ask him just one thing. Me, hey cousin, listen. I know it's a dumb question, but when I last saw her, I brought my aunt a little ceramic bell, shaped as a lady. She held it to her chest all the time. I'd like to have it back. It would be a memory of her. Smiling at me as I was the most stupid people on earth. Yeah, sure, whatever. IDK what I could do with that stupid bell, take it. But don't expect us to give you anything more. We had to sweat bullets for this will to work. Me, I'm sorry. What you mean? He realized he screwed up, so he just left. My mom went back home. I headed back to my office to take a closer look on my aunt's will. It was bulletproof, and the handwriting was, without any doubt, my aunt's. So, what the hell did he mean? It took me several weeks to finally get the clue. As previously mentioned by my husband. It was just this small phrase. My aunt's husband died 7 years before. How the hell could he mention anything? Since zombies are still nowhere to be seen, and I don't know of any deceased person talking from his grave, I started to scan the whole will once again. Things I never noticed became as clear as the sun. There were missing pages. My aunt numbered them, but the second and fourth pages were missing, with sentences left hanging there. Point 2. Some of the corrections were legit, but looking closely, there were a few of them where the uncertain hand of a 81-year-old lady suddenly became stronger and more precise. Point 3. My aunt's husband was mentioned every time my aunt was talking about money and valuables. He did say something about the savings, but apparently his ties that were to be given to charity didn't need his approval. Strange, huh? When I talked to my mom and her parents about this, my granddad, who is 74, and still has more strength and lucidity than your average 40-year-old dude, mentioned my aunt's husband will. We don't know what he said. His family never let us even take a look at it, and it wasn't worth it to sue them. I went back to the notary the next day, asking to see the will, since I was a relative. He let me, but asked what was going on. I simply said you'll know soon enough. When I read it, I started laughing so hard that even the secretary came to see what the F***ck was going on. I rushed back to my office and started to write everything down. Shit was about to hit the fan, but not for my family. After a few days, me, my mom, her parents, and my aunt's relatives met once again in front of the notary. I already told him what was happening. I could see him trying not to look disgusted as my aunt's husband's beloved ones walked in. Notary, we are all here. Apparently, OP has some things to discuss with us, concerning inheritances. You could hear a pin drop a mile away. I stood up and opened my bag. My family was smiling, my relatives were staring daggers from their eyes. Me. As we all know, Auntie left everything to you. Nothing is wrong here, as she didn't have any direct relationship with anyone in this room. What is wrong is the reason behind it. I handed a copy of the will to everyone, with some parts being highlighted. Me, as you can see, pages are missing. Some corrections are different, to say the least. But most importantly, my uncle is cited quite often. This led me to his will. At this point, my relatives turned whiter than snow. My cousin tried to stop me, telling me I couldn't possibly use my uncle's will, as more than 5 years passed. The notary told him that I totally could, as the allowance to contest a will is 10 years. He kept silent. Me, he left to my aunt everything he had if she would have left it to you as she died. You see, in our state it's not legal to make such a kind of contract. So, I want to let you know that you just lost all your rights on my uncle's will, and you are all to be sued for false declaration in public deed and attempted fraud. They started screeching and screaming, calling me names and wishing me an obviously pleasant and late death, all because one of them wasn't clever enough to shut his mouth. Now they lost everything they had, since their farm, their money, their house, and their cars were all my uncle's. They have been forced to leave the house they were living in. All their bank accounts have been blocked, and even their farm had to be closed since it was also my uncle's previous activity. Since the correction they made were actually very precise, and some items, jewelry, ingots, cash, are now mysteriously missing. They even have to pay for an equal value. They had a little empire, but managed to lose everything over greed and stupidity. Ladies and gentlemen, please, listen to me. If you want to screw with someone, at least have the courtesy of not doing it with a lawyer. Post office said I couldn't file a complaint about the mailman not trying to deliver my packages because I had no proof, so I got proof. For context, in my country, if your package gets sent through the National Post Service, you're basically screwed. It takes 200 years and they never actually deliver it. I don't know how it is in other countries, but here they are supposed to ring the doorbell if the package doesn't fit the mailbox, and if you don't answer they leave a notice, and you have to go and pick it up all the way at the post office. The problem is that my mailman doesn't even try to deliver them, he just leaves the notice without even ringing the doorbell and leaves. I've had to pick up nearly every package I've ordered because of that. Well, the last time was my last straw. I was obviously home because of the pandemic. Suddenly, I received a call that immediately hung up. It was so fast that my phone didn't even ring, just showed up as a missed call. No doorbell, nothing. I suspected it was the mailman and ran to the door only to find him inside the truck, looking straight at me before driving off. Well, I was pissed and called the post office to file a complaint. I explained the situation and the lady told me that I couldn't file a complaint because they are only instructed to ring the doorbell and calling is optional, and I couldn't prove that he didn't ring it. At first I just avoided using them again at all costs, but the other day I ordered something and chose a delivery company from the ones listed on the website. Apparently that company hires the National Post Service to deliver for them here. When I found out, I basically stalked the tracking info for days. It was about 2 weeks late LOL, until one day late at night it said it had arrived my country, which usually means that the next day it's going to be delivered. The next day, I woke up at 7 a.m. to check. My suspicions were correct, it set out for delivery. I quickly grabbed something to eat, got in my car and parked right outside my house. Then I waited, and waited, and waited. 6 hours in total, until I finally see the post truck pulling over. I grabbed my phone to record and watched as the mailman opened the door, already either the notice in hand, slid it inside my mailbox and turned around. I got out of the car and said, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" He didn't even look at me and said, "Just delivering packages, miss." Then I stood there as that a holy grabbed his phone to call me and quickly hung up. I smiled as I took my phone out of my pocket and sarcastically stated, "Oh bummer, you didn't even give time to reach for the phone." He literally turned white LOL, couldn't even speak. I continued, "Now can you give me my package please?" He quickly opened the truck, almost tripped and took out my package. "See, wasn't that easier than your whole scheme?" He finally manages to say, "Sorry miss." I turned around and left. He probably thought he got lucky. I didn't say anything else, but little did he know that I sent the video to the post office via email attached to my complaint. Well, let's just say I have a new mailman. This one tries to leave 1 second after ringing the doorbell, but at least he rings. Thanks for watching.